BMX podcast. Man, we haven't done one of these in a while. And what better way to do it as live, straight from the source. And we're doing it Grands Week, so we got a lot of stuff going on. We got Cody Wilson joining us right now. We got Connor Fields in the house. Just finished up a clinic on Connor. But, man, Cody Wilson.
Hold on, I got to do my hair.
Okay.
It's cold outside.
We got so much going on this week. What's going on tonight? We're here in the Hall of Fame and Museum here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What's going on tonight and upstairs?
So tonight is, all day really. Hardesty's been having practice at the Hardesty National Stadium. They also have a side hack challenge. So the side hack challenge, that's fun because that's the start of what will be the main events on Friday night. So the side hacks will do their motos here. We'll have the final four, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they'll race on Friday night. So
that's cool because other than the local racers from here in Tulsa, that's the tie-in from the headquarters over to the expo. Like that is the one tie-in that's leading people from this track over to
Yeah, and then it's fun just to see everyone coming in this place. I was here since last Friday doing a few other things over the weekend, meeting-wise, and we got here to Sunday, and you start seeing all these families showing up, and we had practice on Monday, wheelie challenge last night. There's something going on here every day inside this facility.
Yeah. And at usabmx.com/grands if you want to see everything going on throughout the week. Obviously, the grand schedule's out there, but you got so much going on in Tulsa. Local shops, but especially down here at the headquarters in Greenwood. So,
yeah, it's cool.
Connor, welcome back to Tulsa, man.
Yeah, Tulsa. Let's do it. This is year number 20 for me.
20. All right.
20.
Nice even number. That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
You just had a clinic out there. You've been to this track before. Have you ridden our track?
I've putted around on it, but I haven't ridden it. They decided to make this really cool headquarters and all this amazing stuff after I retired.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We got to
Timing
get a
was
little
good.
special.
But, I got to ride in Chula Vista and, beautiful San Diego for my whole time, so it wasn't the worst.
Yeah, right. But no roof, so
we'll
take a win on that one.
And I think the coolest thing about this is it's all one space, right? You could go to the gym, you could go to the track, you've got the Hall of Fame, you've got the headquarters where, the people that you're working with all work. So you just walk into the office and you chit-chat about whatever, you got to chit-chat about in between your squat sets. So it works out pretty good, whereas everything was a bit disconnected when we were in Chula Vista. We were in Chula Vista for USA Cycling's part of the Olympic team. The USA BMX was in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, it was not as cohesive, if that makes sense.
Right, definitely. With the headquarters and with Grands just 10 minutes down the road, it's a lot going on here in Tulsa and a lot going on just in the national series in general. We haven't had a podcast in 6-7 months, so a lot is going on. Titles have developed, battles, rivalries, they've all kind of come to fruition for this weekend. One of the big ones is the Men Pro class. So Cam Wood, Joris Sade are neck and neck for that Men Pro title. Joris obviously going for his 6th title. Cam going for his 1st title, period.
You have two extremes. You got somebody who's adding to his largest collection.
Yeah.
Right? He's already got the most.
Let's say bookshelf.
He's already got the most, right? So it's like the winningest rider just wins more, or somebody is going to win their first. There's no in between because nobody else racing currently has a cup.
Yeah.
So it's literally those two extremes.
Hey, you mentioned Danny Kellogg.
You're right. Man. Danny Kellogg does race. He does 07.
Proving you wrong,
2007.
Man.
Yeah. Is he here this weekend?
I believe so.
There we go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, obviously, actually, Cam is upstairs with the Mongoose team for Taco Tuesday, but
that's where we were until you interrupted our tacos. We're trying to
tacos
eat, but
here.
We can't. Go ahead.
Sorry,
no tacos.
Connor will eat. We were, getting ready for the pro show, getting all the audio, the visual, and we were looking up stats for every pro, and then we got to Cam Wood. He's got to have won something. No titles, no national championship, no USA BMX title, World Cup title, nothing. He's won races and he's fast. He's always been there, but he hasn't gotten that step. Do you think he can do it this weekend as you have a taco filled mouth?
So from experience, here's the way I view it. And this will be a bit of a long-winded answer.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is to get over that hump of becoming a champion, winning a championship. Winning a race, I don't want to say it is easy because there are many pros who will never win a single race.
Right.
Winning one is one thing. Stringing it together to win a championship is a totally different animal.
Right.
Now, like, I would say with like 99.999% certainty, Cameron Wood will win championships in his career. But sometime it has to be the first.
Yeah.
You got to get the first. And the first one is the hardest one to get.
Yeah.
Because once you've done that, then you have that you can look back and you can think, okay, I've done this. I know what to do.
Right.
I've also not done it. I've made mistakes. Now I've been on both sides and I can focus on what's worked when I was successful. What I think is going to happen is that there's going to be this massive shift, right? We've got one generation exiting, the generation with Joris, Corbin, Sylvain Andre, myself, Corbin Schroff, Sam Willoughby, Mara Strombergs. The 2010 to 2020 generation is leaving. We've hogged all of the titles, right? Like if you like nobody other than Joris or myself has won a title since Mara Strombergs in 2014, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And before that even was him, and then it was Sam, and then Sam, and then
it was those strings of dominance.
So there hasn't really been anybody to win a title, but Joris ain't gonna win forever.
Yeah.
And at some point, someone else is gonna take the reins. And now, what's gonna be really interesting to see develop is it going to be Cam? Is Cam gonna go on a run of 4 or 5 titles? Or is Isaac going to jump in there and they're going to battle and they're going to be the new version of Joris and myself where they go back and forth, every couple of years? Or are some of these younger kids that right now, maybe a Drew Polk, Cedric Cade, Ethan Popovich, who is only 17 and 20 at the moment, 5 years from now, they're going to be 25 and pro.
Right. They're going to be
are they going to be jumping in, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of what develops and if 1 or 2 riders can kind of stake a claim and say, we're going to win everything. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a whole bunch of new names added because it's just been the same names over and over again for a long time.
So,
like, look at this. Here's one thing I'll talk about, too. I know this is not necessarily USA BMX, but I was talking to somebody else about this earlier. If Joris, and this is a big if, but if Joris or even Sylvain Andre is able to win the Olympics next year, and that would mean that through the entire Olympics, 2008, all of us were in the gate together a lot. Maris, Neek, myself, and let's say it's Joris or Sylvain or whoever, we were in the gate all the time. But if someone knew, like Cam Wood never raced Maris.
Right. Yeah.
Like those generations don't match. But like you could find a race in 2015 or 16 that literally was like Joris first, Maris second, me third, Neek fourth. Like
the Olympic lineup.
Yeah. Like you can see that. So like there's been this like mashup of a really long period of dominance of a few guys.
Yeah.
But it's about to change.
Right. It's awesome. Well said. I'm glad you brought up Isaac in the middle of that, because throughout the year, especially the early start of the year, it was Cam and Isaac going at it and Joris finding his way around. There were races that Joris was flat out ahead, but then the times he weren't, he was biding his time, waiting for those two to connect. And
he really was playing that champion card. I thought, he's like, go ahead, do you guys' thing. I know where I need to be.
I am 32 years old. Y'all go do this 20-year-old stuff.
Right, exactly. And Joris has had elbows contending with him down the first straight, but he has that speed to the first turn that other people really haven't matched yet. Cam Larson's tried for sure at the first Rock Hill. We saw that. And then Isaac and Cam are right there, but those elbows get a little small next to the Mr. 5-time.
Here's my view on it, and this is from, I've raced all these guys. I raced Cam for 6 months before I retired, but I raced Joris for 10 years. Joris always, he is what he is. Like, he's not going to just do something you don't expect.
Right.
And there was a lot of times over the years where Sam or myself or Corbin were faster on paper, but we would make a slight mistake and Joris wouldn't make a mistake. And that's what you saw earlier this year, is that Joris was just doing what he was going to do and other people were making mistakes.
Right, 100%.
And so, I think there's been plenty of times this year where Cam Wood or Isaac or both were faster, but Joris would win.
Yeah. And
that's where the experience comes in. And that's where the old head of like, I've done this, it's all good. Like that's where that advantage comes in. But what'll be interesting this weekend, Joris obviously has the experience on the advantage on the experience side, but Kim is not a rookie.
No, not in any
He's
sense of the
been
word.
doing
like,
it
yeah.
for a while, and so this is where if I'm coaching Cam, I'm telling him lean on your experience. You won the Grands last year. What did you do?
Right.
You've messed up a lot of stuff as well. What did you do wrong? Figure out what you did right. Figure out what you did wrong, and fix it. Jorsar's already done that.
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Right.
Right. Like it's once you've done that, once you get like into a rhythm, it's really easy because you just know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like autopilot. The younger athletes are still figuring that out.
Definitely.
And I think there's a point too, and Justin, you can attest as staff, like we see these guys in a few different aspects of their life as the day goes on, every day really, and the event starts for them at different times, obviously, than us, but we see them when they arrive, we see them when they leave, we see them in the middle of the day, and there's things with Joris, you can just feel that veteran mode, say hi, and he wants to chat and hang out. Cam has a lot of what I feel are your same features when you were riding. You just knew when Connor was in focus mode, he was out. He was doing his thing, and that's where he's at. And you feel a lot of that with
intensity.
Cam. Yeah, the intensity with Cam and the way he thinks about things. You can feel it. You can see it. You try talking about something completely different during the day, and he's just looking at you like, not now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. And we're all good. Like that's how we, as staff, we know we have to interact with you guys at certain levels during the day.
For sure.
Right.
And I think that speaks to a lot to his camp that's in the Mongoose pit, the USA BMX Foundation pit. The Hazes are a big part of that. Elise is constantly in there. You'll most likely find her pitted there throughout the weekend. And it's that championship mentality that Elise brings and Marquez brings from the NASCAR world that they're instilling in Mason from an early age. I think a culmination of that is leading Cam to that focus, be ready. And that's not to say Cam didn't already have that, but that environment around him is definitely strong.
Yeah, and I think what people have to remember too, there's two things I want to touch on here. What people have to remember, number one, is we have this amazing thing in BMX racing where you have such close access to the pros.
Yeah.
Right? So you go to the finish line after the semis at any race and someone gets fifth. Like they're literally trying to pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
And or they might be fighting for a sponsorship and they just cross the finish line at fifth and they are stressed and upset and anxious. And then they get asked for an autograph and they might not react in the right way. It's no different than Pat Mahomes throws an interception. You don't see a fan at the sideline saying, "Give me a picture. Let me get a picture with you." Right? That's how it feels.
I've seen a lot of kids ask you for an autograph at just worse times.
Like you're behind the gate or whatever. And here's the thing. I've never met a pro in our sport that isn't a good person, and that if you catch them when they're not in like full focus mode, they'll sit and talk to you. They'll do whatever. But I think it's really hard because there isn't that barrier of like, hey, they're in their race mode. And then later on when they're not in race mode, let's talk to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to remember. But then what I also think, I've learned this as time's gone on as well with coaching. Everybody handles nerves and anxiety different, right? And so for somebody like Cam or even Sam Willoughby or myself, that like ultra intensity, I can't speak for them. But for myself, it was I had to go to such a place that is not natural to me. I'm bubbly. I'm chatty. I'm friendly. I freaking talk to anybody for as long as you want to talk. But like if I start talking to somebody when I was competing, it would throw me off of what I was focused on, what I was trying to do. So I just had to hard zero it.
Right.
And I had to flip a switch and go a complete other direction. Whereas I think the way that Joris handles it is he just goes, I'm going to be really mellow. And I'm not going to let anything affect me. And I'm just going to relax.
Yeah.
And everybody handles those nerves in their own way. And I think that's, again, getting back to like the experience, the older, more experienced athlete has tried different formulas and figured out what worked.
Right.
Right. Whereas when you're young, when you're a rookie pro, some days you show up and you got the throttle pinned and then you hit the gate and you're like, well, maybe that wasn't it. And then the next day you try to relax and then you're late. And then you got to figure out that middle ground of where the right place to be is.
Definitely. Moving classes, the dominant factor in women pro has been Elise. Obviously,
you could have repeated that line since 2006.
Absolutely, yeah. She was 15 and she was dominant. Like it's impressive. It's nothing short of amazing of what she's doing, and she's going for her career number of titles, number 11.
Great number.
That's really just
a fantastic number.
I bet you like that number. You didn't get those title numbers. So.
Only 3.
I mean, she's going for number 11 with a big lead. She's been dominant. I believe it was 10 wins throughout the season out of the 18 possible. leading up to Grand, so she's definitely been winning, blocking. The two on her heels are Felicia and Peyton. You said in your pro breakdown 2% chance for both of them to make a shot at the title. Elise has the other 97 because there's 1% for some other ladies. But no, I mean, Cody, I mean, you've grown up around Elise.
It never changes, right? She's winning. She's focused. Yeah, just you don't
it's
see
hard
it any
to
other
say,
way. So
yeah.
it's like, how do you see where it goes? We've seen Felicia win a title, so we know that experience is there. As you said, the first one's the hardest, so she's done it, right? So she knows what she has to do to come in here. But what she has to do is play her cards perfectly and see how the other person's plays out in her favor. And there's not a lot more you can do other than come in and do what you should do perfectly and see how everyone else plays out. You can be first, but you don't know who's behind you in second, or that doesn't matter at that point. You're waiting to see how it finishes behind you. You don't have control of it, which might be the easiest place to be, right? Go
Felicia's
win
in
and see what
an easy
happens.
spot. She just goes and races.
Yeah.
She can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was 5th or 6th that Elise has to get, right? And so then if Elise makes the main, right, anything can happen. You could unclip in the semi.
Right.
You could have a freak accident. But let's look at history. Has that ever happened to Elise? No. Right, but that goes into my percentage calculations. Like that has never happened. If that happened 3 times, then maybe that
Right.
it's more of a chance. But that's never happened. Okay, so now I got to get into the main, and now I need Elise to finish 6th, 7th, or 8th 3 times in a row. Right now, always a risk. And knock on wood, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but you could get hurt in the first one,
right,
and can't race the second or third. That could happen. But if Elise stays healthy, even if she hits the gate all 3, she's going to get 4th, 5th, 4th. Like
right.
She's not going to get 6th, 7th, 7th or something like that. So realistically, and this is where I think, I don't know if it's ever happened in the women's class, but like this is where in the men's class, if it's me and we're in the same semi, sorry, like I'm going to take a shot. Like this is my only chance to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, it happens in other sports. It's been attempted in ours. But realistically, I think if Elise gets into that main, she'll be okay. But with that being said, Felicia's in the better position as far as like anxiety. She's like, I'm just going to go do my best.
Right.
Elise is like, I just got to stay healthy and get through it. And that can be the hardest position to be in.
Yeah.
That
the
is
pressure
so much
from
harder.
the ceiling as that cup comes down
Yes.
can be crushing.
It's almost like that position that Cam and Joris are in is almost like, all right, cool. I got to go try to win the race.
Yeah.
Like it's just any other race.
Yeah.
And that's a way easier position to be in than like, man, let me tell you, like there was a couple of times when I would go into the 3rd main and I just knew I needed to get 6th or better.
You're like, don't fall.
Just don't fall. Don't fall. That was
the
it.
exit of turn 1 must have been a thrill
Yeah.
every time. Like, okay, let's just hit a pro. Like, that's it.
Like, and it's just a weird thing is like on one hand, you got that mindset of like, I'm going to go try to win this race. But then you're like, well, I don't want to get into like a stupid elbow fight in the first turn that I don't need to get into.
Right.
So then you're like, how do I turn that off and just aim for 4th? But like, that's not how you get to that position by aiming for 4th.
Yeah, right.
You know, so it's this weird battle you play with your mind as you go into that last round. But this is where Elise has won 10 titles. She's also lost probably 5 titles over the years to Felicia or Dawn Daniels or Mariana Payon or whoever it was. So she's done both sides and she's made the mistakes and corrected them and she knows what to do.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a fun race when those two get together, especially for a title. Last year last title for Felicia, 2021, there was a crash in last turn. That was a little bit of a drama. But also earlier in the week in practice, Elise broke her thumb.
Hurt herself, yeah.
And that was a major factor in Felicia's
I remember that
title.
during practice, everyone's looking at each other like, wow,
What's going to happen? Yeah. And Felicia put herself in that spot throughout the season. But at Grands, I mean, there's a reason we deemed Elise Queen of Tulsa last year when she won her 10th. She's dominant.
Well, that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't say anything on your cup. It doesn't say anything other than that you won, right? Like, I don't think, like, Maris Stromberg's in 2014 when he won that title, I don't want to say it was lucky or gifted because you got to put, like you said, you got to put yourself in position. Right. You got to execute. If Sam doesn't crash on that semi, I don't think Maris wins that title. Sam was in a position like Elise where I think he needed like 6th.
Right.
Like the odds were very low. Now, Maris did exactly what he had to do. He made the main and then he won. So he did his job. But it doesn't say when you cash that check, it doesn't say asterisk next to it. It just says that you won.
Yeah. It's on the banner. It's on the banner.
That's all it is. So it's one of those things that I just think, like you said, Felicia's done it. Elise has done it. This isn't new. They've been battling for over a decade.
Right.
They're very familiar with each other. They're traveling around the world on Team USA with each other. I think they're both, very experienced at this point. Elise is turning 33 in January, which is nuts to think about, and crushing it.
Yeah.
And Felicia's, I think, 28, 29. So they're not, young.
Yeah.
But the other interesting factor, just like in the men's, Elise is not going to win forever. Felicia can't win forever. Is it Peyton? Is it Delaney?
Yeah.
Is it Ava Corley coming up in a couple of years? Who are going to be the ones in the next generation to grab the reins and go? And the difference is, as a self-proclaimed historian, our generation and Elise and Mariana and the same age of the women pushed the old generation out. They pushed Kim Hayashi, Michelle Carnes, and that group out when they were young and said, this is ours now.
Yeah.
We pushed Mike Day, Donnie Robinson, Bubba Harris, Kyle Bennett. We pushed them out. We said, nope, we got it now.
Yeah.
Nobody's pushed Joris out. Nobody's pushed Elise out.
They're trying.
They both turned 33 in January, and they are still dominant.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on a reason? Has something changed from when you were 15, like you were saying upstairs, 15 going to a World Cup or due to a race? Is there something from when you were on that rise to when
I don't know.
These riders are on the rise?
I think it was a perfect combination of we got serious at the right times because for us,
the sport evolved too.
The sport evolved. But for us growing up, the Olympics wasn't a thing.
Right.
When I started, BMX was not in the Olympics. When Joris started, BMX was not in the Olympics. We did it because we liked it and we wanted to maybe win the state or the Grands or whatever. Yeah. And then when we were 15 and we saw the Olympics happen in 2008, or at least would have been 16, Joris would have been 16, I was 15. We saw the Olympics happen and we're like, that looks cool. I want to do it. And so we got serious at the right time, I think. And so that definitely, I think, lended to the longevity because that burnout didn't happen.
Right.
Because they weren't training like crazy people when they were 10 years old trying to go to the Olympics. They were having fun. Right. Sure, I'm sure they were training. I'm sure they were working. But it wasn't with the goal of going to the Olympics. It was with the goal of getting better and having fun.
Right.
So I think there's an element of that. I also just think that I think it's a crazy thing to think about. My mom found a flyer advertising BMX track. She doesn't find that flyer. I may never know that I would have been the best in the world or something.
Yeah.
The world's greatest shot putter may have never gotten to try track and field.
Yeah.
The world's greatest ice hockey player might live in Mexico, but he just never had the access to ice, so he didn't know. So I think there was this crazy thing of the right people who had the talent, the ability, the mental strength, and the resources and the support to go after a dream. Those people found it and they went. And there just hasn't been that same sense. The world's greatest BMXer might have just never found BMX. Right. There might be a 25-year-old out there who would be crushing Joris right now, but he never found BMX.
Yeah, it's weird to think of how people start and then where they went with it, right? And what those markers were that changed how you were treating the sport. You obviously successful before you saw the Olympics and said, that's mine. And 8 years later? It was yours, or whatever it was.
Well, and we see that with other disciplines of BMX or just cycling in general. Chad Curley is a great example. He was on that factory team. He was winning races in ABA and going over to NBL and dominating. But then he saw freestyle and saw his friends at the park, switched it. But if he stuck with BMX or BMX racing, you never know what he could have done.
Anything from being a champion.
I'm seeing him on Doritos. I'm seeing him on Doritos commercials.
Oh,
he's
the man. Yeah. He was always a really talented bike rider, too.
Yeah.
Dennis Anderson, him. I mean, that was a team back in the day. There was a team from San Diego. It was Nick Long, his sister Shelby was a national champion, Kristen, Chad Curley, Dennis Anderson. I was on that team. There was this powerhouse phantom team in the early 2000s that, Christian Craig was on that team.
Yeah.
A lot of people that did a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah. That's a good rabbit hole to go down to. The Phantom on track, just look up Google, YouTube, everything. Try to find as much information about that and watch all your guys' races from back then. That was great. Speaking of, I asked you this over a text, a couple weeks ago. Your favorite Grands moment or favorite moment to show to a friend, like this is what the Grands is. Joris's elbow in 2017 was pretty good, but I think you got another one too.
Which one are you referring to?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I say you asked me. You asked me what like moments I thought were cool.
Yeah.
And I sent you a list, and then I sent you one that was like, I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast today, but I can remember that David Herman's first straight in 06 was legendary. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, I remember that like Sam made a main, or he won the Rock in 2008 as a junior, and he just took it to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, why can I remember that, but I can't remember the things that I actually want to remember? I think the ones that stick out to me would have been like the first time I won NAG 1 when I was 16X, because I went to the Grands every year from 2002 till now. In 2002, I was 10, and I never won. I made mains most years, but I never won. And then when I was 16, I finally won, and I pedaled like 10 cranks past the finish line. And Jim Riley was on the mic, and he was like, he's never done it, but he's doing it now. Look at him go. He's like, I'm just pedaling. And I was just so excited. That's a funny one to think about. And then, growing up in America and going to the Grands is obviously the biggest thing. And before the Olympics, the USA BMX, or at the time ABA title, was the pinnacle.
Yeah.
That was what everybody around the world wanted. It's shifted now where now it's the Olympics. And then afterwards, some people value the World Cup. Other people value the USA BMX. Those who value the World Cup, it's typically because they're from a country that really values the World Cup.
Right.
But growing up in America, I'm sure Cam Wood could attest to this, but this is it. This is what you want. And so I remember like in 2017, I had already won the Olympics, realistically the highest you can go. But I wanted that USA BMX title so bad because I just the shelf didn't feel complete without it, and so that was a special memory to do that. My dad was there, and it was really cool just to share that moment with him. And I think I was 25 at the time, and it was 15 years of going here with my dad. And obviously, he gave me a lot of opportunity by taking me to the Grands and taking me to nationals and all that, and it was cool to share that with him. Yeah. And then the other one that really stands out was like it was really nice in 2020 to get back to like something that was kind of normal.
Right.
And like our pro series was canceled.
Yeah.
So it was like the first time we had raced all year. And like I just remember being like, this is so nice. Everybody had their masks on kind of like down, but we had our masks on a little bit, but it was good to get back to normal.
That winner take all 2020 Grands I think that was special. It was the same titles from the previous year. Mm-hmm. Still the turnover was, you guys were still fast. There's no shocker there, but it was good to see that.
Yeah. I got first. Joris got second. I mean, it was like literally. I think him and I have gotten first and second every year between like 15
and then 20. Elise won, Tyler Brown won. Okay.
But here's the thing on that too, and now that I'm done, I can talk about this. I remember everybody online talking about it's winner take all, blah blah blah. And I'm like, this sounds bad, but whatever. I was like, you've never even won a race. You think you're just going to show up at the Grands, the hardest one, 3 mains, with a bunch of everybody's pulling, everybody's
speaking. Pandemic training just hits everybody, man.
Because you were pandemic training it, nobody else was, And it was like, you're not the same way we're talking about. Like you got to win your first title. You also have to win your first race. Right. The Grands isn't the place that you're usually going to win your first race. Yeah. You're not going to be a 5th place guy and then win the Olympics. Everybody who wins the big ones, it's because they win the small ones before
leads
they
up to it. It's confidence, it's skill, everything. I made a semi once at Grands, and I was pretty stoked. I'm just putting that out there.
You make it out of rounds at Grands. I think as an amateur, you start to go, wow, it was hard. It really is hard the whole day. So whatever. Yeah. 2020. The funny thing for us on the side of business, and as we sit there and try to figure out how to do it, we're glad we did it, right? We look back and we're like, we did a one-off pro event that was winner take all type scenario. Who knows what could have happened? You were thinking these wild scenarios. Someone could win the cup that you'd never even heard of because they come into town and they just blow it out, or who knows, they blow everybody out on the first turn and they're the only ones left, or whatever the case is. We wagered it too because we hadn't had the pro races during the year for obvious reasons. COVID, we were slow, we were getting started. Didn't want to bring pros into the mix at some point. It was scary, really, trying to run some of those events. And we're like, do we do it? Did we not do it? We ended up doing it. And we're like, we're going to give away a cup for like a one-off event. And it was, still a wager in our minds. And then you look back and it's like, we're glad we did it, right? Because you'd have this weird, you already have a weird hole in life in 2020. We'd have made the hole even weirder if there's like this missing cup in 2020.
Yeah. Well, and I do think, sorry to cut you off. I do think it is, it would have been interesting if somebody would have just showed up and been fast. If somebody would have showed up and deserved it, then that would have been like, whoa, cool. But it would have sucked if somebody just blew everybody up.
Right.
And then it was just the first person to get on their bike and go, or something like that.
That was what was wagering in our mind. It's like, are we really going to put this opportunity out there? Like, it was just different to think about.
But with that being said, that's all the World Championships is.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we had to go back to.
That's all the Olympics is. The Olympics is it's the biggest race ever, right? And yes, you have to get through the 3 motos and the 3 semis. I wish it was 2.
But you got to qualify with the country, and there was other things before that. We're like, this is like, you could buy a pro membership, get on the gate, and somehow if you can blow everyone out in the first turn, you could win the cup.
Yeah.
Like are we really playing this
thought
opportunity?
About it. Shane had a pro license.
Our president, Shane Fernandez, is like, does that mean I have a chance at the cup? We're like, no, you really don't.
Yeah. I wonder if you would have won and been like, dang, we need to raise pro pay.
Probably. The other side of that 2021 was the amateurs had still, their titles were normal.
Mm-hmm.
So they were
massive.
Yeah. Giant race, but then also just giant rider count. Do you remember that 5 and under novice class at that Grands?
Yeah.
It was 40 riders, I believe, for 5 and under novice. Those, the COVID kids that found the bike from the path to the track, and now those kids are 8, 9, 10, and one of them has won a title, Lily Ashley, from a league
rider,
and then other riders are on the banner for this year.
That's awesome.
That's cruiser, really cool. That amateur. I mean, it's really cool to see the rider that I think one actually went to Grants as her first race, and she's in the top nag standings.
Imagine the disappointment. You go to the Grands as your first race. The next week you go to the local track. You're like, where's everybody?
She goes, I thought it was winner take all.
That's cool. Well, it's just like what we were talking about earlier with like the chance and luck of finding it.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe one of these athletes who discovered the sport during COVID goes to the Olympics one day. Or I know one of the goals of the RISE program here in Tulsa is to have an Olympic athlete come from the RISE program. And like think about the turn of that life just by finding a BMX track, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the RISE program and the Tulsa community. That the local kids out here, you can really see the step up in their progression. Sorry to get off the Grands.
No, we're good.
From when we first opened, 20 months ago now, something like that, to now, like they've gotten older, but their skill has improved, their speed has improved, and it's because they're riding together, they're in those clinics, they're racing together on a track like this, and making it diverse with the local tracks in Oklahoma. I'm calling it right now. In 5 years, let's go 8 years, a cup will be from the local Tulsa community.
That's really cool. And that's what a wonderful goal to have, right? Like, let's change some lives.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And you see that with the facility, something else. RISE program is a great one, right? But the one that got me, I come into this office, monthly, a couple times a month. It seemed like I've lived here since September, October, November with the events we've had going on. But you see the summer camp happen, and those kids, RISE programs are very specific. It's, we pull these kids in, there's weeks and weeks of programming. The summer camp is straight up like your kid knows nothing about BMX, maybe not even knows how to ride a bike. They come into this summer camp and they spend the week here in the facility. They see the Hall of Fame. They do things in this classroom that we're sitting in. They're out riding on the track. They ride down to Gathering Place and they start to love a bike.
Yeah.
And then they're back racing. And the amount of kids that start racing out of just summer camps is kind of cool. And to think that someday someone could be a national title contender or a pro, even turn pro, that found BMX through the summer camp program. Yeah. That's another one.
And we had our first step of that. The first summer camp league rider turned expert 2 weeks ago here. The very first one that signed up just turned expert. So he's made that. I mean, it's already starting to happen here in Tulsa.
It's really cool for me to see this because I remember as a kid, you would have been there too because you were an NBL guy. We don't say that here, but you were an NBL.
East Coast. We call me
You're an NBL guy, but like people that haven't been around the sport too long, or anybody listening who's only been around for 5 years, this stuff didn't used to exist.
Right.
League wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like we just showed up at the track and they said, "Good luck, have fun." Like there was no help, and so to see it like grow and to see the changes and to see the ease of the barrier to entry has been cool to see just as a lifelong fan of BMX.
Definitely.
Like think about it, if I had a kid, like I'll put them in league, like
Yeah.
do your thing. Like,
Sweet. And the summer camp, it's because they want to get involved in bikes and bicycles, but it's daycare.
Mhm.
It's throughout the day, all day. They're fed, they're taken care of, and they're having fun and learning something with the foundation, with that STEAM program.
And people argue that real quick, like a lot of hardcore BMXers, right? They go, well, that's not BMX. Why are you guys running that summer camp? It's like, no, you're right. It's not. It's finding kids that want to get on two wheels. Like, it's not about BMX racing at that point. It's hosting a summer camp and facilitating things out of this building. If you've been here, might know where we're sitting, but right, we're sitting in a classroom of the Hall of Fame where you're looking back at bikes that I'm pretty sure I'd be scared to get on some of those bikes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really sure how some of those guys raced on the bikes that we're looking at across our head, right? And and then I think, even down to the uniforms, you look at some of the uniforms, like they wore that stuff. And, the kids get to come through here and immerse themselves in that and just understand it from the grassroots. And then that makes them love BMX, right? We bring them into the summer camp just to get on two wheels and ride down to the gathering place or ride in the parking lot, learn how to ride. And then they come into the sport a completely different way, but they're seeing it from all sides as they come in.
I'm gonna switch gears here because it is Tulsa, it is Grands Week. What was your first Grands?
NBL or ABA?
Either.
East Coast. Man, I went to ABA Grands off and on in the early 90s and then consistently 2000, I think, 2001.
What was your first NBL Grands?
Late 80s.
Late 80s. So the NBL Grands, for those who don't know, that was
early
at
90s.
Derby City.
Derby City at Louisville. That was the same weekend.
Yep.
Labor Day. So 80s. So you've been doing this
Well,
for
I started
40
in
years.
84.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I haven't raced much in the last 5 years. Just continually get slower and slower.
He'll come.
Justin's coming around. He's starting to slow down.
Right.
He's working more. He's riding less. He starts to slow down.
And life happens, man.
But
Life
during the
happens.
summer, what's fun is I leave my bike here and I try to get some riding in.
Couple laps in.
And then I use a transponder and I think I race like other people in my mind.
Mhm.
And I look at someone's time and go, yeah, I can beat that one. And then that's all I end up doing. I never can complete a full lap. But
What about you? What was your first Grands?
So first Grands was the NBL Grands in 1997. I was 2 months old.
I was gonna say I'm trying to do the math on that one.
Right. Yeah. No, only 26. But then it was scattered throughout the early 2000s. I mean, I remember being at the NBL Grands when I was 3, 4, 5, and then over to ABA when my family moved to the Midwest, and it was a lot closer and everything. 2004, we hit a hiatus. Do you guys remember the plywood track?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, holes dug in the track, plywood over. We went there, and my dad said, "Nope, we're not doing it." And then, sure enough, 3 years later, we were back. But yeah, that was kind of the early days of Grands for me. But
plywood track. You should find some other staff and get that interview.
oh yeah,
We've heard it, right?
Oh,
Many times. I was there as a racer too, and so was Justin. We were working for USABA or ABA at the time, but the guys that had to
elementary school.
Yeah, the guys that had to deal with that it's
And
the
for those
story
who-
is
for those who
incredible.
don't know,
why the
that
track ended up.
the dirt was left outside, right? So it was raining down, so they built
Outside.
it with mud essentially.
Well, what
It
people don't
froze.
realize is our dirt and
Froze. And
yeah,
thawed.
that's where I was going with this. Like people don't realize that our track builders deal with a lot. Like if it was raining the week before, if it's freezing outside, that moisture gets in there, it gets cold, and then bring it in a building that has a heater on. All of a sudden, that frost that's deep in the piles of dirt melt, and it just becomes water underneath 3 feet of dirt. And there's this soggy spot down in there that you can't get to unless you dig. And I mean, we are fortunate on the builders that we have and the track crews that we have. Even today, right? They had a great build all week long, and it was easy, but that's not easy work. It's difficult to build the track in the time frame that we have.
Right.
For sure.
And if you go back in the photo archive, photos.usabmx.com, buy my photos, but you can go back in history and look at those. But that Grands album starts with just Red Bull induced 24-hour, like you can tell it's 2 a.m. Like you don't see any light outside the windows in the background, so you know it's late at night. They're on a skid steer with shovels and just pounding.
So here's
Red
what's
Bulls.
funny. That is the one Grands that I did not go to. I had a broken arm. That is the only Grands that I've missed since 2002.
And you're not even bummed. Huh?
And it is funny because I remember this is back in the days before webcasts when you'd listen to the announcer.
Yeah,
Online, you just
on the
listen.
radio. Yeah.
So I remember I was sitting there, and this is not going to surprise you because you know I love me some stats and points. I'm sitting there with my dad with the points table, figuring out what nag I'm going to be based on how everybody's finishing. Now it's all clicking. Now I know where I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one. That was the only one that I missed. Was that year? But I do remember the old video, like Bubba Harris. That would have been the weekend. He just that was where he became legend.
Yeah.
It was his first title of the 3 that he got. But it was, I mean, just imagine Joris passing Cam this weekend and throwing X-ups as he goes by. Like that would never happen. And the speeds were a lot slower back then than they are now, and the tracks were different, bikes were different. They had knobby tires. Like it was just a totally different thing. No carbon fiber anywhere. But
just C-tube.
Yeah, but just think about literally think about Joris going by in the second straight this weekend, going like, just throwing X-up. Like that would never happen. We'd be drilling holes in our number plate for a little more aerodynamics before we did that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, Nick Long actually just kept coming back and forth. I want to get him on for sure, but before I do that, Cody, what is kind of the plan and kind of future 2024? What are we kind of looking at after this Grants?
National series?
National series.
Do we have a plan?
Not.
No. Well, for me, it's like 2024. We put a few different stops in there. Pro series. We've had some changes with pro points this year. Those seem really cool to us. From guidance of Connor too on some of those changes and his mindset on it. And I really want to see that play out a couple more years, see what this starts to do. I think people strategized a little bit different this year in how they attended races. And obviously next year, I mean, let's skip from our series. We have the Olympics, right? So You're going to see this weird shift of when the pros are racing, especially a few of them, right? They have to focus on certain things at certain points in the year. And it's not our series. It's going to be certain things for the Olympics coming up. This facility itself, it's exciting. We got the World Cup next year in April. And then in May, we've got the World Championship for everybody, elites and amateurs. So you got challenge racing next year. Last time we went there, we had just over 1,000 entries for the USA, and that's always fun and crazy at the same time, right?
Busy year. That's like a busy 3 months for you between the World Cup year, the World Champs in Rock Hill, and then the Olympics themselves.
Yeah,
and then trying to hold our own races somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, those are consistent, right? Those click off. We have so many good staff members that go run races, and then you get to these points where you focus. You're like, wow, we've got let me throw another one in there. We got the Canadian season opener right in that mix of where the World Cup is and the World Championship. So the Canadian National Series will start that same time, and you got staff that facilitate some of that too and go up there and help the Canadians run that series. So there's a lot that goes on in BMX in March, April, May next year, and then I feel like summer is almost going to be a breath. We're going to watch the Olympics.
It'll be a breath for y'all. It won't be a breath for whichever men and women are representing USA.
There's a lot of people that won't be taking a breath, but as the sport as a whole, you look at it, it's like, okay, you're going to watch the Olympics, you're going to do that, and then it's gear up for September, October, November, and this rush into Grands. This facility, again, will host a bunch of events through October and November.
Foundation Gala.
There's a lot of things that happen with the foundation and a lot of things, the National Hall of Fame we're sitting in hosts their dinner once a year, an induction ceremony. So it's just
on that. I actually had a question on the Hall of Fame. I was reading.
Are you nominated?
Today. No, so I saw that.
I saw you nominated.
I mean, I figured at some point. I saw that Maris was like an automatic because he had the votes before, but I thought you had to be retired for 10 years before you were eligible.
5 years, right?
Is it 5 years?
We got to get the curators. He's still
because
curators out there.
If it's 5 years, then Sam would have been eligible and he'd be a first ballot, but he would have been eligible in 21.
So it's nomination based, I can tell you that, right? So I don't know if someone's ejected because they haven't been out long enough or how the nominations work, but anyone can go drop a ballot and nominate someone. Then they take the top 5 in that, and then they go through the voting process.
Yeah, because we should find out from Gorka if it's 5 or if it's 10 years, because like Bubba was.
Well, and it does differ from industry to
racer and things.
So the different categories have their own, distinction of when you can be nominated.
Right, because Bubba got nominated, and I remember this 2023 makes perfect sense because I remember racing him in 2012. He made one last run for the 2012 Olympics, but then that was it. He didn't ever race again really after 2013. So this is like that 10-year period. And then I saw Maris on there. I'm like, Maris smoked me in 2017. Like,
wait,
hang on.
I remember watching those numbers.
Like, yeah,
the mathematician's over here going, well, I think I'm eligible now. Let me do the stats.
No, because I'm like, because like I raced Maris after Sam was injured.
Right.
Like Maris raced for another year after Sam was injured. And like, both of those men deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Both of them deserve to be first ballot Hall of Fame, no questions asked. They should get 100% of the vote based on just their career numbers, not in addition to other things that they've done.
Yeah.
Sam's still involved in the sport. I mean, Maris, I believe, is the president of Latvia.
He's actually coming back out to GP BMX. That's a little inside.
He's riding
Grand Prix, coming out with his son and ripping the flats.
Yep.
Start following your kid out there and you're riding.
I wonder if that's making Barry sweat.
That's what I was gonna say. Next thing you know, we're gonna see him come into Bet Pro.
Hey, I would love it. I don't know if the lower back's gonna agree with that.
But no, that is an interesting thing now too, because I remember when I was younger, and even up until maybe 5 years ago, all the people getting inducted in the Hall of Fame were just names. I didn't know them.
Right.
Didn't know who they were. When it was like Danny Nelson, I was like, I kind of remember his name, but he retired in like 02, 03 when I was starting, and he was getting inducted. And now it's like, dang, like I lined up against that guy. I'm old.
You're either going, wait, that makes me really old. Maybe they've changed the age for the Hall of Fame. Maybe. But no, it's the same really on all sides. When I first started having to obviously work at the Hall of Fame and do stuff logistically behind the scenes, some of the names were like, yeah, I remember that person, or I was a kid or teenager as that person was kind of retiring, and you're thinking, oh wow. And now I'm the same way. It's like some of the people that I was racing are already in, or it's just wild seeing the different industry people too. And then now we've got the other categories too. We kind of do, a special recognition one, and we got some track operator stuff coming up in the future too, because there's just so many people we want to recognize for everything they've done.
Yeah, I mean, starting in '77, there's countless people that deserve to be there, and it can only induct so many people each year, and it sucks. For sure.
I enjoy coming to the Hall of Fame though. Every time you come here, there's different exhibits, there's different things.
Right.
And I mean, I come twice a year, once every 6 months. So there's always
it's not that fast if you're here every day.
Right, exactly. But like I saw TJ Lavin's setup, and like he's a Vegas guy. I went to his house when I was like 12 years old, and I remember seeing those jumps like, oh my goodness. And the video games there, I remember playing the video game and the whole thing. And so it's pretty cool to see the different stuff. And then I messaged you the other day. They got Brooks London all blacked out kit.
Yeah.
So here's a little known story, like funny, crazy story on that one.
Tell us the story about that, because I've heard Gork's. I only get half of it because I'm busy. I'll walk by, and he was telling a story about the special jersey and what it meant, and I didn't get the whole thing.
So Nike sponsored the BMX team in 08 and 12. And in 2012, I don't think they knew the difference between race and freestyle. They wanted us to wear jeans, like Levi's jeans, when we were racing. And it's like, well, that doesn't really work. Like, we could ride in them, but like, you don't want to go race the Olympics wearing jeans. So we pushed back on that. And then they were like, all right, well, we want to do something that's like cool or special or fun. So they made an all black uniform. It was the same, but it was all black. And the idea was, you guys are going to wear your red, white, and blue. And then in between the semi and the main, you're going to change into all black, and you're going to come out for the mains in all black. And like, there's so many like things wrong with that. So first thing is you have 18 minutes between crossing the finish line and your third semi and the main. So if you do make the main, that means you've already raced 3 laps that day, and you're just trying to catch your breath on those 18 minutes before going up to the gate in the main. Because if the gate drops 18 minutes later, which is UCI minimum time, you're staging 12 minutes later. You got 12 minutes between crossing the line and staging. In that 12 minutes, the last thing you want to do is get naked and change. And then so there's that side of it. But then there's also you started racing in a uniform. You don't want to change your uniform right before the most important race of your life, and change gloves, change helmet, change everything. That doesn't work. So we pushed back and we said no. And we tried to compromise and say, we'll wear it the whole day. And they didn't want to do that. And we'll just wear it on the finals day, which I think would have been cool. Like you wear your red, white, and blue in motos, and then you wear your other stuff in the finals. And they said no, but we all got really cool custom black and white. I had a helmet done. It was all black with a white eagle on the sides. Like it was really badass. But unfortunately, it never got used. And Nike dropped the BMX program after that.
Now,
we didn't want to race in jeans.
those are crazy things, right? Because we're pretty in the know on a lot of things that happen throughout the sport, and especially with USA Cycling and our partnership that we have, with you guys going to elite level stuff. And we never knew that jersey existed until it came into here, and we're like, "Is this the jersey that never was?" And it actually is.
Yeah.
Like it's the jersey.
It's funny because no one asked. I've got like 3 pairs of pants and 3 jerseys sitting in a box. I have a London bin with all my London stuff just in my closet under the stairs. If someone would have asked, I'd been like, "Yeah, here, take 2." I don't have any use for them. You want the helmet? That's
and
why
now we have this.
I was
place.
happy.
Like,
That's something we
geez, like-
didn't know to ask for. Like I didn't know there was one out there. I have my own personal problems with it. It's not red, white, and blue.
Yes.
It's really cool to see if you haven't been here. Like it's a new item that
Yeah.
popped up recently.
Mhm.
So it's different.
and it's not something you're gonna see on the YouTube videos or any of the photos. It's that special thing that was really just for that team,
Yeah.
that crew.
I wish they had
That's
the
awesome.
jeans.
I've
Looking
got 'em. I
back,
have one
you
pair.
won, and if you could win and say I did it in jeans too.
I've still got the jeans they made for us. They have like a Nike swoosh on them, like stitched into them, and then Levi's on the back because there's a partnership with Levi's. And so they're like one of one, and like I'll wear them out just because they're a nice pair of jeans. People are like, "Do you have
What
Nike
you got on?"
jeans?" And then they're like, "How'd you get those?" And I was like, I just say eBay.
You know about
I
the
just
Olympics?
say eBay because I don't want to tell the story. But when I was
One
younger,
day you could throw those on eBay, where I get a lot of money now.
probably.
Yeah.
There's
Always
always
going to be that number one bidder,
the 12 people that asked me are all on eBay looking for them.
right? That's awesome.
Man.
Well, yeah, like Cody said, but like we were talking with the Olympics, it's a lot of excitement leading up to any Olympics, but especially one that, cycling and the action sport community has never been bigger. I truly believe that. It's expanding to more features, more TV time. What are we seeing for next year? I mean, obviously the US is in a tough spot. The French and Colombians have been dominant. We're on the verge of 1 or 2 spots for the men, but 3 for the women. So there's going to be some decisions made, and not easy ones for sure.
No.
But that's USA Cycling.
Yeah,
so
we
I'm
don't.
glad I
Luckily, we
don't
just get to run the race, and then
Yeah.
they can go make those decisions.
Yeah,
I mean,
Because,
I'll mention. I don't mind. I mean, it's all public. It's all on there. If there's one spot, it's Cam Woods.
Yeah.
As of today, he's the only male who has made a main.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And he's won. He's made multiple, but it's not even contested.
Yeah.
He's the only one who's made a main. Where it's going to get tricky is if they earn 2 spots and nobody's made a main.
Right.
There's no differentiation, right? Because right now the 2nd and 3rd, 4th spot would be between. You can make an argument for Corbin, Joey Lito, Cam Larson, maybe Jeremy Smith.
Yeah.
Now Larson won the Pan Am Games, but that technically doesn't count because it's protected because not everybody can race it.
Right.
So why is that fair to Joey Lito who didn't get a chance to race it?
Yeah.
So it's not really fair. So that one they can't really use that in qualification. Corbin, you can make the argument for because he's got the experience. He's been in the Olympics. He's a world champion. He's got the experience. Or you could go the other way and say, let's give it to Joey Lito or Cam Larson because we'll use this as their chance to get experience and hope that in 2028 in LA they are ready to contest for a medal.
Right.
Because essentially at the Olympics, there's 4 things you get. You get gold, silver, bronze, or a participation certificate.
They
That's
give
it.
that? Do they give that?
Yeah, you get a participation certificate. And so if you get
We need
4,
one of those in all.
I've got 3. So even if you win, you still get a
Get in the box.
everybody gets a participation
Oh, with the gold
certificate.
medal, is that like the underslot of the nice box you get?
No.
Okay.
No, you get mailed a couple months later a participation certificate. I've got my London and my Rio ones framed, the Tokyo ones in a box somewhere. But you can make the argument for them to use this as development and as learning for 2028. So what's going to be interesting, though, is if no one makes main. If Cam Larson or Corbin or Lito, if somebody goes and gets a 4th place somewhere, that might be all it takes.
Yeah.
That could be it. Just make one main, and you've earned your Olympic spot.
Yeah.
On the women's side, Elise will go for sure. Felicia will go for sure. It's that 3rd spot that's going to kind of be contested and up for grabs.
Yeah.
They've both got Elise has a silver medal, 3-time Olympian. Felicia got 4th last time. I mean, she was so close.
Yeah.
She won the Worlds last year. She had podiums this year. Like, on the numbers, on the points, and just on the experience, those 2 are gone. That 3rd spot's going to be tricky.
And we were in that same kind of spot, especially with Brooke saying that she didn't want to go to the 2020. She's done her Olympic run. We had that spot open in 2020 leading up to it. So obviously Peyton filled that spot with a good performance at a World Cup and really kind of solidified that. Do we think the World Cup here will be that chance for riders to, I know this track, I'm going to make my statement, let's go. And I mean, it's home turf advantage. They hold 3-week camps out here.
Yep.
Every other, like twice a year. So
yes and no, it's equal for all Americans.
Yeah.
There's no specific one that's going to have an advantage. Like the overall advantage will be a Team USA will have an advantage against everybody else.
Right.
Same way when we go to Papendal, the Dutch are always strong there. We go to Argentina, the Argentinian team's always strong there.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting one because there's like all these races within the race because other countries have the same thing. Who the heck's getting the 3rd spot for France? Romain will go, Doris will go. Who's getting the 3rd spot? Is it going to be Sylvain? Is it going to be Pilar? Is it going to be Jeremy Rankwell? Is it going to be Eddie Clairte?
Yeah.
So they're in that same boat where you win one race, that could be it.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be like races within the race of these people trying to find and figure out who's getting their spot based on what happens here. And so like coming into day 2 of Tulsa, that's the last shot, I think, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be people. I mean, just buckle up because there's people going for broke.
Is the World's part of that Olympic qualification next year?
Yeah.
At Rock Hill?
But
So
your
it's
World
Cup
ending there.
Yeah,
you know?
if that's the last
yeah.
World Cup, then because the World is protected, not everybody can race the Worlds. So I think there's like 7 or 8 spots for France, but like there'll be dudes. I mean, that fills up quick. Like I mean, they had 5 in the main last year.
Yeah. They swept the podium at 3 races in the
Yeah.
World Cup scene this year.
Yeah.
So it's, man, I don't want to make that decision.
I'll just run the race for him.
Okay.
I'll push the button on the gate.
I'll take
I'll do
photos.
the math.
Dude, we're
I'll do
good.
I'll do the article.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. We're just coming up on an hour. I know Nick and a couple of people got a little busy, I
I
believe.
think he's setting up for his movie.
Yeah, so Nick Long movie premiere. The first showing is tonight, 3 showings tomorrow, and then another showing on Thursday. So we're excited to see that. We're going to be, getting ready for that, and then of course practice for Grants tomorrow.
Is there a race this weekend?
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
We got a local race here on Friday.
We focus hour by hour. That's kind of how we run.
Just
it.
one step at a
Yeah,
time.
Justin and I started this game like last Friday, so it's a slow marathon. We're starting
Right.
to speed up. We got by Friday night is when it
It's
gets
the same
exciting
advice
for
I'd
us,
give to
right?
Wood and Joris this weekend. One
Just
lap at a time.
slow
One
roll.
lap at a time.
One lap
Well,
at a time.
Cam's
See, we
upstairs
go-
with the Mongoose team on the taco deck right now. He's probably not eating tacos.
See, I'm in a tough spot because it's like I'm American.
Yeah.
I want to see an American win.
But
But
then
you
your
want
guys
to
would
chase
chase.
rider
But
win?
Joris is my teammate.
Yeah.
I just hope everybody has a good time.
Yeah. And sorry, this one last thing. That is another piece we forgot to mention. The chase domination for that men pro title. There's a chance it could come to an end. There's a chance it continues with Joris winning. But are you and Pete especially mentally ready for a possibility that it might come to an end?
Oh, I mean, nothing is going to last forever, right?
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, if Joris wins this year, then, time will tell if he's continuing
Right.
after the Olympics. But then that would mean then all that pressure's on poor Isaac to go and win, right? Otherwise, we lose it. But at some point, it's going to end.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's one of those things like, don't be sad, it's over, smile, because it happened 8 years in a row where one team dominated for 8 years in a row.
You're so close to 10. Don't you
I
want it
know.
to be a
I
round
know.
number?
I personally, I'd like 11. Isaac's 10. He can,
Right.
it would be really cool if Joris can win this one, make it 9, then Isaac next year can make it 10.
He has to make sure he
Yeah.
gets 10th at World, though, next year. So he runs to 10.
True. Well, no,
We're getting into the weeds
no,
here.
he
We're
can
getting into
win
the weeds here.
He can win the Worlds, and we'll make him a special jersey that's got a 1 with a little 0 next to it.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
Perfect. Well, sweet. Thank you guys for joining. We have a busy week. You have a busy week. You got the Connor Fields experience going on.
We're gonna head over to the track.
We're
and take
heading
a look
over to
at
the
it.
track to do a track walk.
Okay, I'm coming. Cool.
So did you do the official track walk already?
Yes,
Oh,
we did. So,
I guess I haven't watched it.
yeah, sorry about that.
Missed
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
See ya.
See ya.